What does leadership look like when something offensive happens in real time? Recently on the BAFTAs, during a live award ceremony, an offensive racial slur was shouted from the audience while two respected actors presented on stage. How do you maintain composure when you didn't create the problem? Welcome to Imagine Greater, the podcast, where we challenge the status quo and reimagine what's possible in business, in leadership, and in life. I am Michelle Bethel-Gibson, and as always, I am excited for us to bring this amazing podcast here to you today. And our topic today, it's an exciting one. When leadership is tested in real time. Five pillars, yes, we're saying five pillars that we cannot ignore. Well, let's get into it. Have you ever, have you ever watched a moment unfold in real time and you realize this is not entertainment anymore? This is leadership. Because when pressure hits, the truth doesn't just arrive, it is revealed. You see, recently on the BAFTAs, and that stands for the British Academy of Film and Television Arts, during a live award ceremony, an offensive racial slur was shouted from the audience while two respected actors presented on stage. Yes. What's interesting is the individual responsible is a public advocate living with Tourette syndrome. Now, Tourette syndrome is a neurological condition that can include involuntary vocal outbursts. In this instance, it was a racial slur using the N word. This moment was aired despite the broadcast being delayed. And that's a discussion for another day, right? Despite there being a delay, it was still aired. Now listen, this isn't a political conversation. It's a leadership conversation. You see, because Proverbs 27 and 17 says, iron sharpens iron. Some moments sharpen you, and others, well, they simply expose you. So, here's a question. What does leadership look like when something offensive happens in real time? What does it look like? Emotional regulation, rapid responsibility, and human care all at once. That's what leadership looks like when something offensive happens in real time. The leadership must show up as emotional regulation. They must have a rapid responsibility and they must do it with human care. And all of this must take place all at once. So today we're going to deal with when leadership is tested and the five pillars that must be addressed that we cannot ignore, especially when an organization is as public as the BAFTA, right? We cannot ignore it. And the first pillar is composure is a discipline. Yes, composure is a discipline. Discipline. The first test in a public disruption is composure. Those presenters, and we admire them here. I'd imagine whether we want to just say you were amazing, right? They stayed steady. They carried themselves and they kept it moving forward. But here's the thing. Composure is not suppression. It's regulation. And we need to say this and we need to say this plainly just in real time. Just because someone look okay doesn't mean that they were okay. Those presenters steadied themselves, they kept their emotions intact, but not because they look okay. That meant that they were okay. So as we get into each pillar, we're going to address each pillar from a Q&A perspective. The first question around this pillar that says composure is a discipline, we want to ask, how do you maintain composure when you didn't create the problem? How do you maintain composure when you didn't create the problem? The answer we have is you anchor into your assignment. You say to yourself, my job is not to collapse. My job is to lead. And those presenters led well. The second question we want to ask around composure is a discipline. We want to ask that is emotional regulation a leadership skill that we have undervalued? Is that a leadership skill that we've undervalued? Because we see this happen in real time with those presenters. So, yes, we undervalued it because everybody celebrates charisma. Everybody celebrates that leader who gets on the platform and could charm and command the attention of everyone. Everyone celebrates that until crisis shows up. Then, then we realize that character is the real brand, don't we? So, question 3. What can leaders learn from how they remain composed on stage? That's the question we want to ask. What can leaders learn from how those two presenters remain composed on stage? Their professionalism was powerful. Everybody watched them in real time, just staying steady, staying focused, staying on message, and leading well as they presented. But it should never become a license for leadership to be careless afterwards. Proverbs 16 and 32 tells us, better a patient person than a warrior. I love this quote by Viktor Frankl that says, between stimulus and response is a space. And within that space lies our power. And in this case, that power is discipline. That space is discipline to not respond, to not react in the negative way. But it requires discipline in real time. You see, composure is what you do in public. Care is what you do after. Composure is what you do in public. Care is what you do after. Let's get into pillar number 2. Preparation is part of protection. That's what it is. When leadership is tested in real time, preparation is part of protection. You see, if a disruptive moment is possible, preparation must go beyond awareness. Because awareness without infrastructure is performative, isn't it? Preparation would include clear contingency plans, support protocols, immediate response system, and private follow up. Strong leadership, it just does acknowledge risk. It builds a system around people. That's what strong leadership does. Strong leadership isn't about just acknowledging, oh, this could happen, oh, this may happen. Yes, there's a risk to anything happening, especially in the public, but it builds a system around people. You see? That's what it does. That's what strong leadership in any organization does. So here's our first question with this pillar. If an organization knew that disruption was possible, what should have been in place? What should have been prepared for? What should have been done ahead of time? Well, in real time intervention plan. That would have been good. A real time intervention plan because they said before they knew that an outburst could have occurred and a post incident care plan in place. No vibes, no hope, but a plan. A real time intervention plan in place and a post incident care plan afterwards. That's what could have happened, right? Number 2, what does proactive leadership versus reactive leadership? Well, proactive leadership tells us it rehearses the uncomfortable. We know that an uncomfortable situation could have happened. So we plan for it, we rehearse for it, we go over it. Just in case this happened, we will do this. We rehearse it. Reactive leadership improvises and people get hurt. That's what happens when we reactive. We improvise when things happen and people get hurt. The question around this pillar about preparation is part of protection. How do strong organizations prepare for uncomfortable possibilities? Well, they don't wait for chaos to teach them. They do tabletop drills. They assign roles. They practice the hard thing. No matter how hard it is, it could happen. So you practice and you prepare for it, right? That's what strong leadership organizations do. They don't wait for it, the chaos to hit the fan. They plan for it, they prepare it, they assign rules, they practice the hard thing. Luke 14:28 says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost? And this cost isn't about that we're talking about, isn't about budgeting. This is a leadership counting the cost before the cameras roll. You sit down and you count the cost before anything happens, before we're on the stage, before we're rolling, before we're live. We count the cost of what might happen. So if something goes wrong publicly in your organization today, tomorrow, if something goes wrong in your organization today or tomorrow, is your response rehearsed or is it reactive? Just think about that for a moment. Because for as long as I've been leading and as long as you've been having a business out there are things are always going to happen. But will your response be rehearsed? Will you be prepared for it? Or will it be a reactive one? Will it be reactive? You see, intent does not erase impact. That's the third pillar. Intent doesn't erase its impact. Context matters, and a neurological condition may explain the behavior, but explanation and impact are two different conversations. Explanation and impact are two different conversations. Mature leader holds both truths. They hold the fact that compassion for the individual and they hold accountability for the harm caused. Mature leadership does two things. Know two things. Understand two truths. That there's compassion for the individual and there's accountability for the harm caused. And here's the order that protects trust. Here's the order that protects trust. Impact first, context second. We handle those who are impacted first, and then we address the context of it secondly, because when leaders rush to explain without honoring impact, people, people feel dismissed. They're talking about everything that what they didn't plan, what was the intent, how they knew it was going to happen. But nobody addressed the people who were impacted. And so guess how they feel? They feel dismissed. Here's a question around that. How do leaders navigate harm that was unintentional? How do you navigate that? Well, simply you name the harm clearly. Apologize cleanly. Care for the impacted. Care for the impacted, then explain the complexity. Care is first. Explanation comes second. Care is first. Explanation comes second. People first. Organization and keeping its reputation is second. That's what we do. We name the harm clearly, we apologize cleanly, and we take care of those who are impacted first. Then we explain the complexity, right? Second question. Does explaining the context remove responsibility for the impact? You know the answer to that. No, it doesn't. It may remove the malice, but it does not remove responsibility. That's all explaining does. It removes the malice, but it does not remove the responsibility of the organization. Question 3. What's the difference? What's the difference between explanation and accountability? Well, explanation tells you why it happened. Accountability tells you what we will do now so it doesn't keep happening. Explanation tells you why it happened. Accountability says, this is what we're doing now in real time so that it doesn't keep happening, right? You see, because James 1:19 tells us, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. quick to listen means you start with the ones who were impacted. You start with the presenters. That's what you do. You take care of the ones impacted. You see, because Maya Angelou quote rings home right now in real time. People will forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. People will forget what you said, but they will never forget how you make them feel. You see, impact is about the felt experience, not the press statement. Impact is about the felt experience, not the press statement. Marinate on that as we get into pillar number 4, another pillar that we cannot ignore. Private care matters more than public statements. You see, public apologies are visible. Private care is relational. One presenter later shared this. They said that they wish that someone from the organization had checked in on them afterwards. They wish that someone from the organization, from the BAFTA, had checked in on them afterwards. That's detail is everything. Because leadership is not proven. Leadership is not proven in a press release. It's proven in hallways. It's proven in rooms. It's proven in private conversation. It's proven when the cameras are gone. That's when leadership is proven. That's where leadership shows up in the private moments when no one is watching. Just the people who have been impacted are being cared for. So here's a question. Is a public apology enough if relational follow-up doesn't occur? No, that's optics. That's not leadership. That's optics. That's not leadership, right? You're all about giving this public apology. You're all about letting everybody know how sorry you are. And let's face it, the person responsible for apology didn't come as fast as it shouldn't. It was delayed. That too was delayed, right? So that apology was you wonder about how sincere it was, right? Because it shouldn't be about the optics. It should be about the leadership that cares about people first. So what's the message? What's the message is sending that you send when private care is missing? What is the message that you're sending? It says your pain is manageable as long as our organization and our brand survives. That's what it's saying. It's saying that your pain is manageable, but our organization image is intact. Our brand is still going. Still has the reputation. But what does that do about the people who were impacted? That is not us being good stewards. That's not being a good steward in our organization, in our businesses, in life. And that's what we're called to do, especially when we're all about serving others, right? What message are you sending when private care is missing? I just want us to think about that. What are your thoughts on that? Another question that we could ask around this pillar, private care matters more than public statements. Here's a question. How do we restore trust after a public misstep? How do we restore trust? You restore trust with contact, care, and correction, not just communication. It was all about the press station. Did we get a press statement out? It was all about the press statement. Did we get our press statement out? Did we let the world know that that's not what the organization about? Did we apologize? Did everybody who's in the public eye know that what this organization really stands for? But was there care? The contact and the care and the correction were missing. It was more about communicating the right message for the organization rather than the care and the contact. But you have to do that first going forward. You have to restore your trust by the public by making contact with those who've been impacted, showing them care, and correcting that this does not happen again. This is not who we stand for, whether we're in business, whether we're in our homes, we're in life in general. That is not what we're all about. Galatians 6:2 tells us about carrying one another's burden. But burden carrying doesn't just happen on stage, it happens after. The stage is one thing, but what happens after we're on stage? Those two presenters were humiliated. They kept their composure, they did their part, they lead well, and they presented and they walk off the stage with their dignity intact because they did their jobs in spite of what they were experiencing. As we get into the fifth pillar, it says scale increases stewardship. Scaling your business increases stewardship. The larger your platform, the greater your responsibility. The larger your platform, the greater your responsibility. High visibility organizations carry more weight, not less. Scale magnifies excellence, and it magnifies oversight. So the question is not, did you mean for that to happen? The real question is, were we prepared to protect the dignity when it did? In this case, no. So here's our questions around this pillar: scale increases stewardship, because every large organization understands that greater visibility comes greater responsibility. So does scale increase responsibility? Yes, it does, because your decisions now shape culture, not just outcomes. Your decisions, every decision you make for an organization, especially one such as large as this, your decisions shapes outcomes. Your decision shapes culture, not just outcomes, right? Our second question: what does stewardship mean in high visibility environments? Well, stewardship means this: I own the environment I profit from. I own it. It's your environment, it's your stage, it's your organization. You own it. So whatever going on in that organization, be it positive or negative, you own it. You're the leader. Everything rises and falls on leadership. That's what John Maxwell says. All right? So you own. You own the platform. You own the environment where you profit. Right? Third question: are you building a system? Are you building a system that protects dignity or just performance? Are you building a system that protects dignity or just performance? If your system protects the show but not the people, it's not a system, it's a machine. I will say that again, because if your system protects the show but not the people, it's not a system, it's a machine. Luke 12:48 tells us, to whom much is given, much is required. That's the Bible saying. Scale comes with a receipt. Scaling comes with a receipt. You're profiting from this business. So you're responsible for the environment, for the organization, for the business, for wherever you find yourself that you profit from. To whom much is given, much is required. Scale comes with a receipt. Here's a checklist that any leader who've had a public misstep can follow. After any harmful moment, leaders should ask themselves 3 questions immediately. 1, who was impacted? 2, who was assigned care? And 3, what changes need to happen so that this event never happens again? Who was impacted? Who was assigned care? And what's next so that this event never occurs again? That's what you do in real time as leaders. Leadership is tested most clearly when something unscripted happens. And what do you do next? Not just publicly, but privately. Determines whether trust deepens or it fractures. What you do, not just publicly, but privately determines whether trust deepens or whether it is fractured. So, if you lead anything, ask yourself, do I have systems for crisis? One question. Ask yourself this, do I prioritize impact before explanation? Ask yourself this, do I follow up privately when harm occurs? Ask yourself, am I stewarding influence with maturity? Most leaders think that the test is the stage, but the real test is the green room. Because the stage is where you protect the brand. The green room, the private places where no one sees, where cameras are not rolling, it's where you prove you have a soul. And here's the part that should shake all of us. Some of you are building organizations where people can be hurt in public and forgotten in private. That's not leadership. That's extraction. Micah 6:8 says, do justly, love mercy, walk humbly. You see, justice says, name the harm. Mercy says, hold complexity. Humility says, change the system. If you want to imagine greater, we must lead greater. If you want to imagine greater, you must lead greater. I'm Michelle Bethel-Gibson, and I'm saying this plainly to you. Your leadership is not proven by what you post. It's proven by who you protect. It has been our pleasure to bring you this when leadership is tested in real time and the 5 pillars that we can't ignore. We want you to subscribe to our link. Be a part of this family because we are always challenging the status quo and we're all about everyone becoming better. Leadership becomes better. Life becomes better when we imagine greater. So click the link. It has been our pleasure to bring you this podcast. And as always, welcome to Imagine Greater, Dream Bigger, Dream Higher, and see your life in a better way. Thank you.